Hey everybody, spoilers for Boba Fett episode 4. Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of The Script Department. I'm John. I'm joined again by Brad to discuss the latest episode of Book of Boba Fett. Before we get into that, if you haven't already, do check out our website, thescriptdepartment.net, for all the latest cool projects that we're up to, including script readings from our global network of screenwriters. Also, check out our social media platforms. Links are in the description. And if you haven't already, do subscribe to our YouTube channel and subscribe to our podcast as well. Just search for The Script Department wherever you get your podcasts. So, Brad, the latest episode of episode 4 of Book of Boba Fett. I'm going to very quickly recap, and then I'll get your thoughts on it. Predominantly set in the past this time. Boba Fett is kind of craving to get his ship back from Bib Fortuna and Jabba's palace. Then he finds Fennec Shand out in the desert, left for dead. He revives her. We'll get into the specifics of that in a minute. In return, she asks, "What do you want?" And he says, "I want you to help me get my ship back." It's a real kind of simple plot, a kind of a caper episode. We need to break into Jabba's palace to get it back. While they're planning and scouting, you start to learn a lot about what his motivations are for wanting to be the head of a crime family later on, which is something I've been looking for answers for. And I was glad that they at least explored it.
We've discussed that a lot, I think, in the previous episodes. Just like, what is he doing? Exactly. Why is he there?
And he makes it very clear, aren't you sick of working for these kinds of people? We know how to do it better, so let's do it better. And that's the kind of crux of the explanation that he gives for why he wants to do it. And she's kind of saying, like, you're crazy and all that. And he's like, "This, I know I can do this better than them." They break into Jabba's palace. It's a cool kind of infiltration, and they break out the Slave One ship in spectacular fashion. To top that, they then slaughter all the bikers using the Slave One ship, which is, I have to say, a really great little moment. That's been, 3 episodes in the making now, which is really cool.
Yeah, the noise of the gun, the blasters as well. You're like, yes!
Yeah, it's very, very, very cool. Then he makes a trip to the Sarlacc pit, which I was really excited about, because I thought, and it's literally like we're going up close into the Sarlacc with the ship. We're going as close as we can, because he believes his armor is still in there. The Sarlacc is dead. They've killed the Sarlacc. And Boba Fett insists on, like, he goes back into the Sarlacc without any protection or anything. It's a bit crazy. Comes back out.
It's a bit more melty.
Yeah, it gets a bit more melty. He's like, "Yeah, no, the suit isn't there." And Fennec says, "Look, let it go. The suit served its purpose. It got you out of the Sarlacc. That's it. Forget about it. Move on." Then they're kind of thinking about what to do next. And he's like, "I can drop you off anywhere you want." And she's like, "I'm going to hang around for a while." And that's pretty much their... a lot happens in that. I'm skipping over some of the finer points, but that's pretty much the crux of the episode. And then we then finish the episode with the present day stuff, where Chrysanthemum is in a casino and Boba Fett offers him a job. Then we have a kind of a Godfather-esque scene where Boba Fett is sitting at the head of a table. All the crime families are sitting around. All the heads of the different regions are sitting around. And he's trying to convince them all why they should work for him and not the Pikes. And he's very, very reasonable. This isn't a case of, "I'll kill you all if you don't." This is very much, don't help me then. Just don't stab me in the back when I take on the Pikes myself. They're a bit hesitant, and then they all realize they're having dinner over the Rancor pit, and they very quickly change their tune. Chrysanthemum standing guard doesn't help, doesn't make life easier for them either. And then it ends with Fennec and Boba standing at their balcony looking out over Tatooine. Fennec says, "Look, we need more help." And Boba says, "Look, I've got more money than I need. We can buy help." And that's when the Mandalorian music cues up.
A little mnemonic.
Yeah. So if you've been watching Mandalorian, you'll know the theme. And yeah, the implication being that Mando is coming to help, or could be approached, or whatever.
It's like subtle, not too subtle kind of hint.
I didn't think there was any subtlety about it, you know, it serves its purpose. You definitely get
Yeah.
excited, I think, about what's to come, and they're really ramping up the idea war is coming. If that
Mm.
wasn't established already, it is now. Okay, so what did you think of the episode?
So I was very mixed on it. Like I think there was a lot of some of it felt a bit confusing. There was a lot of sort of fan service, like revisiting the Sarlacc and killing it. It's like a revenge trip, and getting the ship back, and there's all these iconic things in this episode. But it's also there's something unusual about it. They were sort of ending the flashbacks in this episode. There were, as far as I can tell now, there will be no more flashbacks in the Bacta tank because he's healed. There's a moment where it's like, "Congratulations, Master Boba, you've been healed," and he's sort of like, "Da-da," and it's like, "Okay, flashbacks are over. Only future from now on." So they're trying to move on from the old story. Yet this was so full of the the old story and the lore and the legends and all the sort of classic um, bits out of the original Star Wars trilogy. So I was quite mixed on it. It feels like the storytelling went a little bit squiggly, if that's the right word to use in this. They were trying to do too many different things all at the same time. And even the foreshadowing of Mando coming back. I mean, they did it twice in this episode. There was the bit
Yeah,
where we hear the mnemonic when he goes to discover Shand, because that's literally where Mando is doing something at that time. And then this whole time they've almost been trying to separate themselves from Mandalorian by leaning on the old Star Wars tropes. But then all of a sudden he's coming back, and I'm like, oh, what are we doing here? Like, it started to make me question where you can see narratively where they're going to go. They're going to go to war. Mando's going to come in and help potentially, and they're probably going to win. And it's like, okay, I get that, but why isn't it just? It doesn't seem to be following that clearly enough. It seems to be trying to touch on too many, as I said, fan service points. It's like we need to show, oh, we need more Sarlacc. We need more Sarlacc right now. That's what we need. We need more sort of. Well, it's not called Slave One anymore, is it? It's called. They've renamed it.
yeah,
Well, they haven't renamed it. They refer to it as the Fire Spray Gunship, which is the name
yeah,
of the model of Slave One. But they seem to have dropped that name.
yeah. I
And there's
say
huge
so.
arguments online about it.
I've
It's
been
quite
saying
interesting.
Slave One just for the purposes of, so people know what ship exactly we're talking about. If you're a fan of Star Wars, but it does seem like Lucasfilm have said we're going to move away from using that word so frivolously, I guess. And I don't hate that idea. I'll be honest. I don't know. If that's what they want to do, then. But yeah, it does feel like they're avoiding that. They're
Well, there's also a
avoiding that
change in his
word.
character that's in line with that. So he isn't the guy anymore that enslaves people and puts them in carbonite, and he's not going to be a bounty hunter by the look of it. I mean, he might have something to do with that, the way he's been talking to Shan in the desert about setting up their own family, but he seems to want to be more honourable in his actions. So the fact they've changed the name, or well, they haven't even changed the name, they're just referring to it in a different way. I mean, it's some of the arguments online are just furious. Like some people are just losing their minds over it. Like, oh, but in the Star Wars databank, it's still clearly stated as Slave One, and it's like, okay. Like, let's everyone just take a step back and just see where
But
they go with this.
but I like your rationale of it, that he doesn't refer to it as Slave One anymore, because that's
Mm,
not, because it's almost like calling it Slave One is admitting it's a slave ship. It's a slave
mm,
transport ship.
yes.
And he doesn't want it to be a slave transport ship anymore.
Mm,
I think I'd rather that be the reason than it be Lucasfilm trying to just pretend they didn't have a kind of a, maybe an insensitive title for a ship,
mm.
because actually, yeah, if it is an insensitive title, then move away from it. But I'd rather it be grounded in character related growth, because I
Yes.
think that can fuel the journey of the character even more than um yeah. So yeah, I really enjoyed this episode because it was like a caper episode. Let's break in and let's get the ship, and let's settle a
Mm.
few debts afterwards and all that. I like that. Um, I liked the nod to Mando at the beginning when he's walking, or he's making his way through the desert, and he sees the flares going up from that episode where they're trying to blind Fennec with the flares
Yes.
in Mando season one. Season one, yeah.
Season one, yeah.
So it's a good bit back, and they cue the music, and you're like, oh wow, like Mandalorian is, or Din Djarin is literally over on the other side there,
Mm.
and yeah, it was very, very effective. I thought it just kind of, again, placing you within the time frame of where it's set and when. Um, I thought that they overplayed a few hands too quickly. I think the idea of Fennec kind of joining his ranks so quickly, just saying, "Oh, I'll stick around," after one mission. I was like, "Really? You didn't have anything else going on? There's no like you're a wanted person. You've been hiding out in Tatooine, okay, but you now have a chance to get somewhere, to get off. Like you're like people know you're on Tatooine. I know they think you're dead, but there's. It seemed like it was too quick for her to just say, I'll stick around. I don't know. It just felt too easy. It's just, yeah, okay, I'm in. Yeah, okay, look, I'll just stick
Yeah.
around.
There was something unusual about how quickly she did it.
Yeah,
I can see what they were trying to do. I mean, she owes him a debt. She's trying to repay the debt. I don't think she was too impressed with him because at times in the palace she either assists him or saves his ass like once or twice, and he's like when the rat catcher comes around, he's crawling around on his hands and knees trying to catch this little robot.
yeah,
And then quite soon after, she's like, "Yeah, I'll stay for more of this." It's like,
yeah,
really,
yeah, yeah,
really, the guy who was crawling around in the kitchen after the rat catcher. But the scene before that, where he asks her about, he sort of explains that he found her dying of a gut shot and he saved her life. He took her to a mod parlor and all this kind of stuff. There's a moment where they understand they understand who they are, so they know each other through their reputations. So he's like, "You're Fennec Shand." He's like, "Yeah," and then he's like, "I'm Boba Fett," and she's like, "Boba Fett's dead," and she knows all about Boba Fett. So there is an immediate mutual respect that might go beyond just come and help me get this ship out this palace. There's something more, but they so slightly touched on that. They didn't really make a big deal of it, like, "Oh, you're a legend,
yeah.
and so are you." And obviously, the dialogue would have been a bit less hammy than that. But you can imagine that's why she might want to hang around a bit. But I
But
don't know. I don't think they.
even the idea though that she believed he was Boba Fett so quickly felt a
Mm,
bit rushed to me, and I thought actually what would be better is I need to get my ship back. Okay, where's your ship? And don't go into the details of what the ship is. And he's like, I'm Boba Fett. And she's like, yeah, right. Boba Fett's dead. And,
mm,
whoever you are, old man, whatever, she can insult him or whatever. But then when she gets in and she sees the ship, and you could use that as a great way to kind of glamorize the ship and glorify it, like, wow, it's
mm,
that famous ship, that chased the Falcon. Um, and then she can be like, holy crap, you are Boba Fett.
mm.
And it can be that kind of moment of recognition. I don't know. I felt like it's very much like, I'm Boba Fett. No, Boba Fett's dead. No, I am Boba Fett. Okay. And then it's later on, it's, would you want me to drop you off somewhere? No, I'm going to stay with you for a while. I mean, as if he even wants an ally or a friend or whatever, it's, there's
Yeah,
this,
how many times do they ring that bell where it's like, "We're going to do this"? Oh, we? And it's like, yeah, yes, that's what's happening here.
yeah. I thought it was, on the one hand, we know where all this is going to go. So I can't say that they've made the wrong decision by doing it
Mm,
that way. But because at a certain point, we're just going to be kind of waiting for them to catch up to where we are in our knowledge of the show.
mm,
But at the same time, it did feel like if we are doing this episode, that arguably wasn't needed. We I mean, him finding Shannik. Okay, yeah, you can explore that a little bit, but I don't know. I felt like the fact that they go on a mission wasn't really needed. I don't know. I did
Well,
again didn't hate it, but just
they went on a pretty big mission, like almost immediately after some very serious stomach surgery.
yeah,
there,
yeah.
there was no recovery time from that operation, was there? What did you think of the mud parlor?
I didn't hate it, but I started wondering is if because I've been seeing a lot of YouTube videos, a lot of theories that Fennec is going to betray Boba Fett, and
I'm in that camp. Yeah.
I'm not in that camp yet, but I started to think, what if they want to play this kind of idea of people having prejudices towards people with augmentations,
Mm.
like the way oh the way only the evil people typically get those kind of augmentations in Star Wars. But now he's met these allies who are big fans of augmentation, and so it's showing that there is a different side to all this. What if she's somebody who hates that, and she's never going to forgive him for what? Like, you should have left me to die. Better be dead than have this stuff in me, or whatever. I don't know. I was thinking maybe that's going to be a sore spot for her.
Yes, yeah,
Literally
I
and
think so.
figuratively.
Yeah,
I don't know, or just the idea that you should have just left me for dead, and instead you brought me back. Like, that wasn't you. You shouldn't have done that. Or
I mean,
something.
there's definitely a possibility. I mean, she seems pretty tough.
Mm.
Like, I don't necessarily know if she would be like, oh, my formerly human stomach is now, it's all
Yeah, yeah,
pistons and cogs and stuff. I don't know if she'd mind if she can still put people on their ass. She's probably still happy. Like, it might have
yeah,
even
yeah,
made her stronger. But I thought the whole scene where she was getting the bits replaced was really sort of grindhousey. Like, obviously Rodriguez did Planet Terror, and it had a bit of that about it. Like the music choice got like this 80s Robotronic sort of thing. The mod parlor guy was almost sort of like hairdressery in a
yeah, yeah,
way. Like,
yeah,
his hair was super cool, and he was attaching like Edward Scissorhands style attachments that were all a bit clunky and like and like cutting bits out of her. And I don't know. And there were it went on for ages.
yeah.
It went on for what seemed like absolutely ages, like a lot longer than the conversation. I'm Boba Fett. Are you Boba Fett? Yes, I'm Boba Fett. Okay.
Yeah.
Like I mean, it was cool. It was really cool. It just felt a little bit tonally different to the rest of the episode.
I wonder, are they setting up the idea that this is probably going to happen to Boba Fett by the end? That, like, he's going to have to be augmented a little bit, like, if he wants to, I don't know, because of an injury or something like that. I don't know. It felt like it was setting up a rule in the world that you can be, even though we knew it in the Star Wars films, but it was almost like this can apply to Boba Fett as well. It doesn't just have to be for Sith Lords and rebel leaders.
Yes.
Um,
Yeah.
and but yeah, that was my only issue with the episode overall, was just the kind of the how just quickly everything just kind of fell into place. On Boba Fett, yeah, okay. We need to get the ship out. Yeah, we succeed. It's brilliant. I enjoyed the sequence a lot, but it would have been fun to have them, I don't know, fail a little bit more and then get the ship. It felt very quick to be able to just, first thing, flying back to slaughter the bikers. I felt like maybe that should have been something that would happen at the end, maybe at the very end, or later on, like as just a kind of a punctuation, because it's not exactly like this meaningful thing where they shoot everybody except the leader, and then he goes right up to the leader face to face and says, "Do you know who I am?" Or it's not like that. It's literally just picking them off the way they picked the sand people off on the train,
Yeah.
and which was fitting. But if it's just going to be that kind of quick, gratifying sequence, then maybe use it as a punctuation later on, rather than the punctuation for getting the ship out. I don't know.
I think there was a lot of things that were quick
Mm.
surrounding the redemption or the revenge. I mean, even there was again another very short conversation when they're in the desert, and he talks about his guilt. Like we spoke about this in the last 3 episodes. Like, will he be guilty, or how heavy is that guilt weighing on him that he got this tribe killed? And he says it's obviously very heavy, but it's like 2 sentences, and then Shand. She questions that.
Yeah.
She's like, "Oh, did the biker gang took out the Tuscans? Very unlikely." And he doesn't even go like, "No, I was there. They were my friends." They just move on. You know, there's this that was very quickly dealt with, and then he's like, "Yeah, I've got some stuff to do." Blam blam blam. They're all dead. Okay, let's go and look at the Sarlacc. And it's, you know, they did very, as you say, rush through a lot of these sort of like emotional loose ends.
Mm.
They just like brushed over because it's war's coming. We don't have time for this emotional stuff. We need to get on with this.
Even though it's a different timeline, you know, it's like you actually do have time because you don't know that there's war coming yet. You know, so the Sarlacc pit. I was giddy when they flew over this. When they flew to the Sarlacc pit, I was like, yes, I want to see this thing in all its glory, not in the way that George Lucas was limited by in 1997. You know, even though, you know, he obviously introduced some visual effects into it, you know, but this is like a very mythological thing. The Sarlacc pit. It's this horrifying idea. Think about it too long, you'll get nightmares from it. And it's got tentacles and it's got acid and it'll devour you for, you know, even the mightiest stormtroopers can't get out of it. You know, it's the only reason Boba Fett gets out of it is because he had a rocket pack. Like, and it's luck, and he barely survived. This thing is the boss level of a Star Wars movie, you know, and I was so excited to see where they went with this. He flies in with the slave one in order to get to look inside the Sarlacc in the hopes that he'll be able to see his armor, which we know has been taken by the Jawas. We know where the armor is. We even know who's wearing the armor at this point. It's not, the Jawas don't even have it anymore.
Yeah, it's Timothy Oliphant just running around, isn't it?
Yeah, so
hanging out in the desert.
This is a strange scene for me because there's no value in the information in what they're searching for from our point of view. We're just waiting for him to get to the conclusion. It's not here. Okay. Right. So it's not like, oh, I can see it. I just need to get in a little deeper. I can see it. I'm so close. It's not like that. It's just, let's go it's almost like that's, you know, in every Alien movie, there's a moment where someone just wants to look a bit closer into the egg and you're just like shouting at them to take your head away from the egg, you know, but at least they don't know how dangerous the egg could be. But Boba Fett knows. This is Boba Fett looking into the xenomorph egg, and he knows having lived in the egg for a few hours, you know, like, and it did annoy me a little bit that he wasn't smart enough to, like, surely shooting it from afar, letting it come out to try and attack its you know, its prey, and then blast it to bits. You know, just,
I thought it was very predictable in the way it happened. I mean, this is what we were talking about earlier, where there's the fan service versus what's actually going on the screen, and the level of like audience conceit you'd need to just go with it was quite high. Like, I thought we've already seen Fennec Shan take out a tiny little drone from her gun and fly it around a palace, and it mapped the entire palace. Why not just chuck that in there? Like, why are they why are they flying their ship over this thing, which is, its face is like a Humboldt squid? That was super cool to see that. Like, it's got the beak and the tentacles, and, you know, it was not that was, for me, that was fan service, to see more of the anatomy of this beast. And the fact he's sort of like hanging over it, looking for his little Beskar waistcoat and his helmet and everything. And it's like, well, what? just send a thing down. Surely you've got a device where you can be higher up and zoom in. Like, you're in a spaceship. Like, you've got loads of tech in there. And no, he has to put it right over the top. And immediately the creepy music, her going, be careful, be careful. Okay, he's going to get caught with a few tentacles here. It was fun and it was good to see. But I think it was very unnecessary. Like, the Jawas jacked his stuff. We know that. Like you said, there's no sort of trepidation of, oh, will he find it now? Is this where it is? We already know where it is. It's just, yeah,
And
it was fun, but I don't know if it was necessary.
And I always hate. It's one of my. We're going to be doing an episode actually this week about our pet peeves. Marcus and I are going to be doing like our pet peeves in screenwriting in movies or TV shows. And one of my pet peeves is trying to build drama out of something that where we already know everything, and and characters doing what are essentially crazy things, life-threatening things, stupid things that jeopardize the whole plan for something that we already know isn't there, or where we already have the information in advance. And this was one of those moments. I had a lot of fun with it. I was really like, okay, just waiting for it to jump out now and grab them and all that kind of stuff. And but it didn't blow me away. And I was reminded of, I made an Alien reference there. I was reminded of Prometheus. There's a great scene. I know Prometheus gets a lot of flack. There's a great scene in Prometheus where one of the engineers who's been chasing him around the place, this big giant kind of really kind of like painted white kind of guy, this big giant kind of guy, and he's kind of survived being, I don't know, the ship has crashed, whatever, and he's barely survived. And then the xenomorph it's like the first incarnation of the xenomorph. And so it's like this giant, instead of the face hugger being like this small thing, it's like a giant squid with giant tentacles, and like you can see the muscle, and you can see the kind of, you can feel the brute strength of it. And it grabs onto this guy and it's pulling him towards, and he's got massive strength and he's like pulling away from it. And it's just slowly, it's just this unwinnable David versus Goliath fight where he's just being pulled into the mouth of and it's seriously like, holy crap, it's really, really tense and really visually incredible. And I was hoping for something a little bit more like that, where it was like, oh my God, this is a disgusting creature. This is like, this thing could hold its own against, one of those characters from Prometheus, whatever. I wanted the Sarlacc to be a little bit more intimidating than what it was. And I was annoyed that what we got was 1997 Return of the Jedi. And I'm not saying that they can redesign it, because obviously this is only happening a few weeks or months, or maybe even a year or so after Return of the Jedi. But I would have preferred if we got to see maybe a little bit more, and maybe that thing that stuck its head out in Return of the Jedi is only like the tip of the iceberg. Like, there's actually something else in there that's going to come out after it. Like, give us something, like the thing comes out, but then more of it comes out. You're like, oh crap, I didn't believe that the Slave One was actually going to be able to get sucked into the Sarlacc. I thought at some point there's going to be like, just, they're going to hit a brick wall on this plan, or the Sarlacc is going to hit a brick wall on this plan.
Yeah.
I didn't think there was any way the Sarlacc would really be able to defeat the ship, because I thought at a certain point the lasers, the blasters are just going to hit something and it'll be enough.
Yes.
I mean, if Lando, or is it Han when he's blind, is able to clumsily shoot the Sarlacc and it lets go of Lando, then surely that ship has got enough firepower just to shake the Sarlacc a little bit.
Yeah.
And so I felt for it to be an effective scene, it needed there to be more than just, I think my armor is down there. Maybe there's some token down there that I used to have or something. And, I know it fell off when I was Like when he was trying to change the oxygen tube or something like that in the first scene.
Yeah.
Maybe, I don't know. So there's something down there I need to get.
It does need to be a thing rather than something we
Yeah.
know isn't there.
Yeah, exactly. And then
I mean,
just give some more ferociousness to the Sarlacc, so that
oh yeah, I mean, I
we
loved
believe
seeing
it
it.
can. Yeah,
It's like there's like I guess there's a bit of a Jaws quality somewhere that it's beneath the sand. You can't see the whole thing, and I guess there's something quite Dooney about it. There's Arrakis sandworms like hiding under the. It's there. We don't know what the rest of it looks like. I often wonder how. Obviously, it digests people over 1,000 years, but how many things fall in it?
yeah, yeah,
Like
yeah, yeah.
it's like the whole expanse of a planet, and there's just one hole that things can fall into to feed it. I know Jabba was feeding it, but he wasn't. He hasn't done that for 5 years.
I was
Like, I
also,
wonder how it sustains itself.
but I was wondering. Yeah, as I was watching this, I thought, I bet you the Sarlacc has some sort of a tail, and it's under the sand, and it's going to come out the other side, and it's going to grab the ship.
That would have been cool.
From the other side. I don't know, something. The way that it gets defeated is that Fennec reaches for a button, presses a button, and a seismic bomb, I guess. If you remember Attack of the Clones, there's this great moment where they're chasing Obi-Wan. Django is chasing Obi-Wan, and they're going through an asteroid belt, and he's using these kind of seismic charges to blast the asteroid so that they will create debris to stop Obi-Wan's ship. And in this one, Fennec presses the button. It releases one of those bombs out the back of it, and it just kind of clumsily rolls down the side of the back of the ship. And of course it hits its target. It falls down, falls onto the sand, and rolls down into the mouth of the Sarlacc. I mean, it's like playing pinball and hoping that and just randomly, putting, flicking the ball or whatever, and it just going exactly where you want eventually. It's like a hole-in-one shot. And it was I was like, really?
But I think that was fan service as well. Like the fact that to understand what's going on, really, you will need to know that those are devices designed to be used in space, because we've seen them used. If you don't know that, I think most people would do watching it, but if you didn't know that and you're coming at it cold, you'd be like, how shit is that weapon? Like, it just like spits it out onto the outside of the hull and it jingles down. It's like, again, that was like a little bit of Star Wars history that you would need to know to fully understand what was going on.
I have no problem with that weapon being used, because ultimately it kills the Sarlacc. But it's the way it kind of, she couldn't have known that, this will be the thing that saves us. It was pure luck. If the ship had been like tilted slightly the other way, it could have just gone onto the sand and just been destroyed them just as much as the Sarlacc. There was no real. It was just a Hail Mary, and that's fine. But you weren't in such dire straits. I mean, this is a ship that is supposed to be able to survive atmospheric conditions. It's able to survive laser blasts and so on and so forth occasionally. Not too many, I'm sure, but it takes a hell of a lot of damage when it's getting out of the Jabba's palace. I mean, it just tears up the walls and everything. I don't know how it flew, but the idea that they were like, this is our life and death, this is our Hail Mary moment. It's either this or we get sucked into the Sarlacc. No, you won't get sucked into the Sarlacc. It's not big enough.
Yes,
or the pit isn't big enough.
We know it's a flashback, so we know you're fine.
Yeah.
We know you'll be fine.
Yeah,
it's knowing all these things that aren't there or that they're going to survive. It sort of takes a little bit of the.
It's the most enjoyable
excitement.
Scene. It's the most enjoyable scene for me, but it's the one that has the least amount of gravity to it. And I think the biggest crime of the scene is they kill the Sarlacc pit. They destroy the Sarlacc because that was the thing Jabba hung over everybody's head to terrify the hell out of them. I mean, if you thought the Rancor was bad, wait until you see the Sarlacc, right? And there's a reason why they've brought this thing back, is because people have a fascination with it, and now you want to destroy it. Like, I bet you there's a moment in the present day where Boba Fett is like, it would have been great to have our little dinner with the crime families next to the Sarlacc pit. That would have really got them on my side.
Yeah.
If only I hadn't destroyed that thing. In search of something that wasn't
and the
even
barge.
there.
The barge is gone as well.
Yeah. It felt like, again, overplaying your hand, moving too quickly through this.
They were rushing through a lot of things in this episode. And I think the amount of times that they had Fennec Shand save the day again and again and again is going to... I think that's feeding into the betrayal. I'm going to take this from you, old man, kind of thing. She's seeing weakness in him. She even says, living with the Sand People has made you soft. Living with the Tuskens has made you soft. And he says, no, it's made me strong, which is a cool little exchange to sort of, again, go into that thing that he's evolved greatly by his time in the desert. He's living out there in this sort of like Bedouin lifestyle where normally people would just die in the desert, and he's got this whole new set of skills and a new ethos, but you can see they're already clashing over that. Even when he's literally just saved her life, then she saves his life a bunch of times, they go, yeah, let's team up, and it already feels a little bit precarious, the relationship.
I don't know, there's something about it I'm not convinced. I know other people are. I'm not convinced that that's going to happen. Excuse me. I think part of it is that, I mean, I could see her becoming an antagonist for season 2. I could see her being like, or I could see it being a kind of thing where maybe she's made a deal behind his back and he doesn't know yet, and season 2 will be, when's he going to find out, something like that. But I don't know, I'm fine. It feels a bit too obvious for me right now. But then, as I say that, the more I'm watching this show, the more I see them going for the low-hanging fruit. I need to get my ship back. I want to, like, it's the suit that's defining me now, walking around the streets. It's I'm going to blow up the Sarlacc pit instead of just, saving it for later or whatever. It's just very... They're going for the obvious ones.
Yeah, I mean, he's trying to use his legendary identity to enforce whatever he's trying to enforce. Like, we don't know entirely. We've got an idea of what he's trying to do, but it's still a slight secret within the narrative somewhere. But even when he gets that little rat catcher at the wall, he goes, "Do you know who I am? I'm Boba Fett," and I'm Boba Fett, and he's like holding him, and he sort of goes, "Oh," and he turns himself off, and it's like, oh, that was silly, but it was quite cool. Like, I get that, and he says that. I think he uses his name a few times in this, and it's like, oh, he is trying to use his persona to help him do whatever he's doing here. And I mean, when they do leave the Sarlacc pit and they go into the desert, and he talks about, I mean, they go back to the campfire. We've already had the heart-to-heart around a campfire. They do it again because there's more exposition they need to do. So that there are certain clunky bits. They're a bit like, oh, they're back having a little chat to talk about their next steps around the campfire. And he goes into the idea of making this brotherhood, this family, this house. And she sort of half agrees. She doesn't seem that. She's like, yeah, all right, I'll give that a go.
She says something like, I'll do bounties for you, but I won't work with you. Or something,
but on the other
like
side
that.
of it, he's going, I'll pledge my entire life and being to supporting your, survival. And she's like, yeah, you can pay me for a few bounties. It's like, okay, it already feels a little bit uneven.
Yeah, it's very and it is rushed that he would then suddenly... I mean, yeah, she did a job for him. He saved her life. I mean, yeah, as you say, and it's like, you don't have to declare, you don't have to, pledge your life to anybody here. I mean, isn't that part of the problem, that you've been pledging your life to people for far too long? So I wanted to talk about the Bacta tank, So we open this episode with him, the ubiquitous shot of him in the back of the tank,
Mhm.
and then the flashback to the past. And I've been wondering, is this a side effect of the back to tank? Because I was thinking, oh, it's another shot of him in the back tank, and it's getting to the point where it's feeling like it's just a stock shot, like in the 1960s Batman show, which I love, where it's just loads of stock shots of them driving or of them arriving outside Gotham. They filmed it once, and then they just reuse the same, and it's the same extras in the red coat or whatever walking past in the background every single episode, or even three or four times an episode, and it is feeling like it's just a stock shot of him, kind of just squirming in the back to tank as he's having an uncomfortable flashback. I know it's not, but it's very overused. And I was wondering, like, couldn't he be like staring out at the two suns, and thinking of a shot and having a matching shot then of him on the banter or something, looking at the
I
two
think they've
suns,
committed at this point, haven't they? They've committed to that.
But that's why
the back to tank is the flashback tank. That is how it's going to work.
But I was wondering, is that actually what happens in the back tank? Like, it's healing your body. Maybe it's healing your mind as well. And in order to do that, it needs to be challenging, like memories, and it needs to be like, maybe it's like, can it heal a concussion maybe or something, or could it heal amnesia or something as well? And if so, how does it do that? Maybe it needs to like really trigger and spark some memories. And I was wondering, is this what Luke went through when he was in the back to tank? Is this what Finn would have gone through in The Last Jedi when he was in a kind of a back to suit or something like that? And it started to make me think, we'll do an episode about Obi-Wan Kenobi kind of when we're finished this, and think about where Obi-Wan and Ahsoka could go. But I've been trying to think, how do you use Darth Vader? Because Hayden Christensen's he's signed up for Kenobi, but I'm trying to think, like, how do you use him in a way that isn't him and Obi-Wan bumping into each other? Because I feel like audiences would be really kind of long term, I think they might be peeved by the idea that, oh, they've actually had loads of encounters or whatever before A New Hope, like, after Revenge of the Sith and before A New Hope. I think people like the idea of in A New Hope that I sense the presence of somebody I haven't felt in a long time, and we're thinking back to the Mustafar scene. But I was wondering, is Vader in a Bacta tank a narrative device that would allow us to be able to see aspects of his relationship with Obi-Wan in flashback form or something like that?
I would be very surprised after they've used the Bacta tank. They've rung that bell hard. So? Like, I'm not sure they'd reuse it at this point. They might do, but I'd be very surprised, because I think all the money now is directed at Obi-Wan.
Yeah.
I mean, it's big stars in that, really big stars. And this, arguably, Boba Fett, the Book of Boba Fett, is laying the groundwork for this. So I'm hoping.
I wouldn't be expecting a flashback narrative, like a flashback structure like the way this does it. But I was thinking, the only other character that we're going to be seeing at some point that uses a Bacta tank is Vader. And it feels like this is what happens when you go in a Bacta tank now, because we've seen it so many times in this.
Possibly,
yeah. And it felt
and
like
she does ask him about the scars on the inside when he gets out. She's like, "What about the scars on the inside?" And they'll take longer, kind of thing. And maybe it does trigger memories, but maybe it doesn't heal them. Maybe that's sort of like it's work you need to do yourself. But I think there is definitely going to be some mask off action in Obi-Wan, because they wouldn't have Hayden Christensen otherwise. Like, what is the point? It's just like a really well paid body double. Like, if we don't see his face, his voice in the mask isn't Hayden Christensen's voice, and it could be anyone in that thing. So we're definitely going to get some mask off scenes. I want
a good Bacta tank scene in Kenobi. I want to see Hayden Christensen in a Bacta tank. Just putting that out there. Okay, so the present day stuff, and then we'll kind of wrap up. Not much to say other than he's going to have to build his army now, and Mando seems to be playing a role in that. That's the kind of thing they're closing the episode on. What do you think about that?
It's exciting. It's like, oh yeah, they're going to have like this is what they've been building up to. The flashbacks are over. It's all about the war now. Whether next episode's going to be, getting the gang together kind of thing for the big job, which again is always a good episode. I quite like those episodes, particularly in narrative TV, because you get to understand what the next few episodes will be like, or the next episode will be like beyond that, because it's like, this is the explosives guy, and this one's good with locks. I know it's not a heist that they're going to do, but it's that kind of thing. So I thought great, and Chrysanthemum's like right there. Like the scene in the casino is great, where Garza Fwip tries to talk him down. She's like, "Oh, you're the best, warrior ever. Don't dismember this poor Trandoshan. Don't do it. I'll even pay off your bar bill." And then he sort of like just looks at her, looks at the guy, tears his arm off, and then just goes and pays his bill.
Yeah, that was so
like,
good.
It's like, yes, yeah, he's nails that guy. So he's right in the middle of it.
Again, was it too quick, him recruiting Chrysanthemum? Again, going back to my point, it's my only problem with this episode is moving very quickly. Just like, is it too quick to just grab him straight away again? Like, you let him go in the last episode, you're hiring him now in the next episode. Shouldn't he be the last person you hire? Because
that would make sense.
He did try to kill you, Anyway, yeah, no. But then it was good to see him there keeping watch over all the crime families.
Yeah. It feels somehow. I think I mentioned at the start where it feels like it's ending the flashbacks. It's trying to pull away from the other franchises, but then it's reintroducing them in the same, the same swipe. Like it's just okay. Here we go, and it's almost like it's wrestling against some of the basics of, I guess, episodic storytelling. It's like wrestling against wanting to give everyone what they want, but also having like a coherent narrative going through it. I think it will get through it. I think we'll get to that these last few episodes and like, actually, it was worth it. It was worth the struggle to get through this unusual sort of like 3 or 4 episodes of exposition or flashbacks trying to explain why he's developed his character. I think you mentioned in one episode it could have been 2 series. Like the first one was him coming out of the desert, and the second one was how he becomes the crime lord, which I think is what they've kind of done in Better Call Saul. For me anyway, I almost expected the first series to end with him. Oh, there he is, and it's not. It just goes on, and it sort of stretches it out, and it, the actual him becoming Saul is, or the one that we see in Breaking Bad is going to be pretty much at the end of the series. Although we do, again, like with this, we have flash forwards. Like the entire series is a flashback. Yeah. There's the black and white flash forwards of when he's in. It looks like he's in Fargo or something. But it's they've done that in a way where it's not clashing against itself. We're learning new things. There are parts of his history we don't know about, whereas here we know about a lot of the things that have happened and are going to happen to him because we've seen the result of them already in the present day footage, and it's like, oh, he's going to survive this. Oh, he's getting his armor back because we saw it in The Mandalorian. Oh, Shan's going to stay with him for at least another few years, and it's just it clashes against its own structure. I think sometimes.
Is he going to go off world to get Mando? And if so, should he go off world? Like, does it affect the DNA of the show?
I think earlier on I might have said yes. I want to see some of the space opera, traveling through space kind of tropes that we're used to with Star Wars, but it's quite a different show. I mean, we've been stranded on Tatooine this whole time, so maybe a quick trip off world to show that he's back to, he's healed now. He's back to his old full strength. Why couldn't he go off planet? But again, I think it's got to be done in the right way because we don't want to break the environment entirely. This has been the environment we've been given, and then to just go, oh, we're going to go over to we're going to go to a water planet now just to check out, see if we can find Mando.
The problem I have with getting Mando in is you can't make it too easy for him to find him. And if you pull him off world and send him and have him come back quickly, it feels like you might as well have not left at all, but you did. and so that can feel a little clunky sometimes. One of my problems with the original adaptation of the Girl with the Dragon Tattoo is in the book they go on a trip to Australia near the end of the story, and that's fine in a book because long chapters and the pace flows differently in a book. In the movie, it's literally like they go to Australia, they fly around the world, and then next scene they're back again home, and it's like, no, that's a giant trip you just took with like days and days of jet lag to recover from and all that, and you can't just like space hop like that. And I don't like that in Star Wars when they do that sometimes, because it makes space feel like it's just, you might as well not be on space, you might as well just be on a planet. You might as well
the
just
whole
be,
Game of Thrones thing, isn't
Yeah.
it? Like for the first few seasons, like traveling from like the south to the wall would take months, and then all of a sudden they're doing it in like half an episode. You're like, what? So it made it feel smaller.
Yeah, and I do think Star Wars sometimes has a tendency of making the universe small. And I think what Boba Fett has done really well is it makes Tatooine feel big. And I really, I want them to kind of preserve that. I'm also a little nervous about Mando coming back because I don't want it to take away from this show, because it suddenly becomes the Mando show. Again, I used a wrestling analogy last week, and I'll use another one today. You could have a whole card of the best wrestling matches you've ever seen, and then if The Rock comes back from an injury or something at the very end of the last 5 minutes of the show and interferes in a match, or, everyone's like, oh my God, he's back. Then that whole show becomes about The Rock, and The Mandalorian is the star of this television franchise, right? Boba Fett is the legend of this franchise, but Mandalorian, Din Djarin is the star. He's the guy who stole our hearts. And he's like Roy Kent in Ted Lasso with his niece. If you've watched Ted Lasso, the angry footballer with who just would do anything for his niece, and he's just got this lovely relationship with his niece. And
but you say
Mandalorian,
that they brought Skywalker in at the end of Mandalorian, and that worked great. I like that. Yeah. I know it is the way they used the green lightsaber. They kept that in the black and white footage for a little while. I just thought it was well done.
It was.
Like, it felt the pacing of it was well done, and they brought him in, and that didn't feel too weird. I know it was past Skywalker. It was old Skywalker, young Skywalker even. So it probably had a different sort of effect, but
at least there it was the point of that was, I'm taking Grogu away, and it was like a real emotional, like, the only person who's going to be able to separate me from Grogu is the greatest Jedi of all time, or the most beloved. The only thing that's going to separate me from the most beloved Star Wars character now is the other most beloved Star Wars character. And it felt like you're going to need somebody of serious weight to be able to do that. And it made sense. Mando coming back for this. A, how are they going to find him? B, what's he been up to? Like, and is it just going to overshadow? Is it just going to steal away from Boba Fett's victory at the end, his inevitable victory, or wherever this is going? Does it just steal focus from that? Because no one is going to want to see Boba Fett. People are going to get distracted. And you could have Boba Fett being old school Boba Fett, back to like being a badass and all that kind of stuff. You could have him riding the Rancor, but if Mandalorian flies next to him in his rocket pack, all eyes are on Mando.
Yeah, yes, like, it could tarnish it slightly, but would you have him not included to make that work? I kind of just want to see more Mando as well. Yeah. It'd be great to see Boba riding the Rancor with Mando and a rocket pack. That'd be amazing.
It would be amazing. It would be amazing.
I'd be happy. If it ruined the show and it didn't get a second season, I'd be like, yeah, that was totally worth it just for that scene.
I'd be delighted in the same way I was delighted when I saw the Sarlacc pit get destroyed, but then afterwards I was like, oh, but you can't use the Sarlacc pit anymore. And I think this is a series that has been fumbling a little bit with the idea of Boba Fett's legitimacy in the present day storylines. And you what you really don't want, I think, is somebody stealing whatever thunder he's able to gather and muster in those moments, particularly if he's a weaker warrior than he was before. I don't know. That's just my only concern. I'm sure they'll do it really well, assuming he does make an appearance. But it'd be weird if he didn't, given that you queued up the music. I also think, and we'll kind of, I don't wrap up, very quickly now. But I also think the idea of Mando being present in this just makes me think this should just still be called, this should still just be called The Mandalorian. The Mandalorian, the Book of Boba Fett. Like, that should be what this is. This is
like a Star Wars story, that sort of banner.
Yeah, this is season 3 of The Mandalorian. Jon Favreau, all those guys back, same production techniques, all that kind of stuff. It's got the same identity, same brand, everything. It's even got very similar theme music. It's just got that kind of that spin on it to make it more fitting for Tamara Morrison. Just call it the Book of Mandalorian, the Book of Boba Fett, and we like Narcos Mexico, or that kind of thing. It still falls under the brand. Not just the Star Wars brand, but the Mandalorian brand, because it would still be very fitting there. And you can then bring people like Mando back in, and it doesn't feel like it just reminds us that we're now going back into Din Djarin's story for season 4. And maybe Boba Fett can inform Din Djarin's story in season 4, and it can be this back and forth or something. I don't know. But I think, years from now, people will look at these as the Mandalorian shows.
Yes.
And I just wish they'd just lean into that and just be like the Mandalorian series. Like, if they do a few seasons of this stuff or a few spin-offs of this, what's it going to be branded as on Disney Plus years from now? What's the
it's a franchise that doesn't mind returning to rename stuff. I mean,
yeah. And I have a feeling they'll be like, rather than like the Skywalker saga or whatever, they'll probably have the Mandalorian legacy or the Mandalorian story or something like that. And anyway, any final thoughts, Brad?
I think we've covered everything. I'm excited to see where it goes. I'm again slightly worried that the story's gonna break itself somehow, because it's been a bit all over the place, characters coming from different similar franchises, and a lot of foreboding and visiting the past but talking about the future. Like, it's sort of like bent to breaking point right now, but I'm dying to see what happens, so that's probably a good sign.
Yeah, I think this is definitely episode 5 could go in any direction, I think, now, which is exciting. We're caught up, I think. Anyway, thanks, Brad, as always, and we'll see you at the next episode recap. And thanks, everybody, for listening. Like I said before, if you haven't already, check out our website, thescriptdepartment.net, for all the cool stuff we're up to. Check out our social media platform, our social media pages. Just hit the links in the description, and find us on all major podcasting platforms. Just search for The Script Department and give the YouTube channel a subscribe as well. Thanks very much, everyone.